Hello, welcome to Jungeon. Welcome to Jungeon. That's all I've got today. Yeah. So, welcome to Dungeon Jukebox, my YouTube channel, where I am dumping thoughts, just filling up a whole empty bin of thoughts, primarily about Dungeons and Dragons and other tabletop RPGs, other games, bits of music here and there that I am fond of, and maybe even some movie references, and all with a kind of soft umbrella of being, I suppose you would call it, a Generation X citizen, denizen, a level 20 Gen X denizen of the big world dungeon. There you go. That's me. So, right. We established last time that there's a drinking game which you're welcome to play, where every time I say use the letters U and M together in sequence, thus creating a small word which one uses when one isn't sure what they're about to say next or considering the next thought, then by all means have a sip of some mead or something. So, to use another... Anyway. I was asked by a friend in a voice message saying to me, hello, could you... I bought my family a Dungeons and Dragons box set. I don't know which one. And I don't understand it. I don't get it. Can you explain? So I immediately shirked my responsibilities as someone who does know a lot about this very subject, and sent them straight to Ginny Di. I think Ginny Di. Sent to her channel because she has a couple of very good videos about, for beginner Dungeons and Dragons players. It's not that I'm not a patient person, although I don't know if I am truly. It's more that question actually sent me off in a bit of a, it's like, could you explain string theory? Just, so anyway, I felt a bit bad about just kind of palming this person off onto Ginny. Although hopefully Ginny has another subscriber, so that's nice. My duty fulfilled. My guess complete. And anyway, so I did consider it about it. I was like, well, I probably just could have said, well, it's a bit like this or a bit like that, or you should kind of start like this or start like that. But I didn't. And it's kind of sat on my mind a little bit because I feel like people who know me and know that, I play these wonderful games fairly regularly with different, I'm going to call them crews because crews sounds cool, like I'm in gangs and stuff. But I have three and a bit sets of different people that I play with. They do cross over here and there a bit, but I'm lucky enough to have decades of worth of people who still play, and then new people come along. But yeah, I just like, how do you? The only way in my mind to start and understand something like Dungeons and Dragons, particularly Dungeons and Dragons, because the rule set is so... it's just a lot of it. It's like spaghetti. And wizards? I can't talk today. Wizards of the Coast, WotC. Since day one, a bit like TSR used to, but more so because their governorship, their rule over Dungeons and Dragons with Hasbro has been such that, of course, they're trying to make profit, right? They got shareholders, and they got to just keep churning stuff out, whether it's good for the community or not. And there are lots of channels that discuss this, and I'm not one of them, and I don't want to be one of them because I do think I'm a little bit, I see these sensational, almost clickbait titles. Some of them are kind of semi-ironic, but sometimes it's just kind of like, are you really just complaining about the state of D&D again? Because to me, you're just filling that wonderful hungry mouth void, Cthulhu's maw, with more like, yeah, D&D's gone a bit shit. Most of us know that. Totally those who've been playing for a long, long time, since first edition, or God, even chainmail. I think just keep on talking about the state of Dungeons and Dragons and how awful it is, and then loads of people, they love that. They seemingly love that. They just want to hear again, like almost like validation that Dungeons and Dragons is a bit shit, or it's woke, or it's this, or it's that, or but it's not. It's Dungeons and Dragons is a product which has been, to use Bilbo's phrasing, spread like butter on too much bread, or something like that. Anyway, but what it's done, and there are loads of other channels that cover this, and these are the ones that I like. These channels are the ones that champion what comes next. Dungeons and Dragons has spawned 1,000 really, really good, stripped down systems which are easy to pick up and play. And then if you want to then kind of dive into the big, thick, gunky hole that is Dungeons and Dragons, then, all fair and all praise to you. So going back to the idea of like, how do you play Dungeons and Dragons, for someone who comes and asks you that question with absolutely, no responsibility whatsoever of the outcome. You don't know what kind of question you're asking me. You can't handle the truth. All that stuff. Is, I would say, calmly, firmly, put your hand on that person's shoulder, or if you're distant from them, send them an emoji of a hand, and then explain carefully that the best way to learn Dungeons and Dragons is to come and sit at the table the next time there's a game and experience and absorb what is happening, because when you go through the obstruction that is the rules of any game, whether it's a board game or whatever, it doesn't matter, card game, whatever, is that the nuances of the thing are not, they are in the rules, but they're not the rules. Particularly with a role-playing game, you can boil 99.9% of these games down to very, very few things. What are those things? The means to write something down, a pencil. The means to roll dice, polyhedral dice. Even though some games just use D6s or whatever. A person who is good enough, responsible enough, and has a bit of time and wherewithal to put together an adventure for you, so that he can set those, or she, sorry, can set those scenes one after the other, for people to then react to. So what have we got? We've got a bit of imagination, we've got time, we've got bits of paper, we've got pencils, maybe a rubber, eraser, and some dice. That is it. That is everything that I started with. Yes, there was the official character sheet, and yes, there's the rules and all that kind of thing. But ultimately, when you sit someone new down at a table, unless you're all starting at the same time, then that's a little bit like, okay, there's a harder journey for you there. That's a steep old cliff to climb. But if you're new and you're sitting at a table with a dungeon master who's very experienced, or other players are experienced, all you need to do is just roll the dice that you're asked to roll. The dungeon master will explain why you're rolling it. But ultimately, the dungeon master, games master, warden, rabble rouser, whatever they may be, their job is to set a scene, a sequence of scenes for you and the players for you to react to. That's it. So whether it's something as insignificant or sometimes game-stopping as a dungeon door, or whether it's something much more vast like an empire that's collapsing under the weight of its own whatever, then you're just reacting to that as a player. Now, that's the difficult bit. For lots of people, that's the hurdle that they don't get. So many times when people have said to me, oh, you play Dungeons & Dragons, that's that really complicated board game, isn't it? I'm like, nah, it's not really. It's not a board game. We roll dice, yeah, but it's not a board game. It's not that structured. But the whole point and the phrase that will keep coming up in every single rule set that you look at on drive-through RPG or buy or whatever, will always say roughly the same thing. Roll the dice to see what happens and follow the fiction. A good dungeon master is someone who can take a new player and show them not the complexity of rules, but show them a new world, show them a new thing, make them feel like, oh, what? That thing's hit me? And I've lost this much blood? And I'm nearly dead? What happens after that? And you can see that kind of moment where it's like, oh, right. And then the game, the thing opens up. There is a phrase which I remember distinctly. I think I might have brought this up before, but it's a phrase that I think I saw bandied around at the same sort of time that second edition came out, which is still mine and my brother's favourite edition, by the way. If you could escape from the slippery slope of paying everything, including internal organs, to Wizards of the Coast, go and pick up a copy of second edition, Player's Guide, Dungeon Masters, and Monstrous Compendium, was it? I don't know, whatever it was, the bit, the Holy Trinity. Probably going to get in trouble for saying that, but and go play, because everything you need is in there. There is one system called THACO, which some people get their head around really quickly. I didn't, because I'm rubbish at maths, but you can easily overcome that just by writing down two numbers, basically. But that's all you ever needed. The best games I ever played were second edition with a good group of friends. And all of us, at some point, were newbies around then, really. Our dungeon master, my dungeon master, whose name was Christian, sadly not with us anymore, was a master at bringing you into the atmosphere first and the game second. So that by the end of a session, you went away with a really good idea of what D&D was and the realization that you just couldn't wait to play again. That's when you know you understand D&D. It's not, I understand the rules. It's, I understand that when I sit at a table with these people and do this thing, it's a wicked experience. It's a really, really good experience. If it's not a good experience, one of three things I think might be wrong. One, the dungeon master is just not a very good dungeon master, or is having an off day, to be fair. Two, the people at the table are not the best people to play with. Maybe they have something going on in their life. Maybe they're a bit too overbearing. Maybe there's just a clash of personality. And number three, it's not your thing, which also is a thing. I have a friend who I thought would love Dungeons and Dragons. And they're not going to play. There's no way I can twist their arm. I've tried. Believe me, I've tried. They won't do it because it's just, nope, don't get it. Don't want to know. Nope. Don't do high fantasy. Don't understand it. Like sci-fi. Ah, you like sci-fi? Well, what about this game Mothership? No, I don't want to. No, I don't do role-playing. I don't understand it. They're just close to it. I have an inkling that if that person sat down and actually played, they'd be like, oh, right, this is good. But you just don't know. However, I have sat down with people who I thought would love the game, but they just can't, I suppose, let themselves go in that way. They can't kind of pretend to be somebody else for a few hours. I think maybe there's an element of embarrassment. I do think that the explosion in Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing games, obviously there's Stranger Things. I mean, I'm talking about a semi-recent explosion, when it got huge. COVID, obviously, people were getting online and playing. But I do think that as soon as people who are normally very, very embarrassed about putting themselves out there understood that Dungeons and Dragons was a way out for them, or a way to express lots of, hidden things about themselves, that's when I think the moment, that's when D&D had a huge explosion and a particular kind of player emerge. So I think that, what am I saying? I'm rambling a little bit, but really the bottom line is that you ask someone the rules to a game, and unless it's very simple, you're not going to get a good answer. The best way is to sit down and learn by experience. Dungeons and Dragons is the experience. So that's why, if you can literally spend money to go and visit a castle and play Dungeons and Dragons with I'm going to use these air quotes, professional dungeon master. Professional. I'm professional. I'm not belittling the professional side of it so much as the kind of, I get that people are making money out of being a good dungeon master. I don't know. There's a, I don't know what I'm saying really. There's kind of a certain, I don't know. I haven't experienced a game with a professional dungeon master. I would consider myself a professional dungeon master because I've literally have multiple decades behind me doing this very thing. So I suppose to me it's like second nature. I don't know. I don't know many older professional dungeon masters or people who call themselves that. I know older people who are really good dungeon masters, and I would love for them to make money at doing what they do, but they don't go for it, that kind of thing. And neither do I. But yeah, so if you get to this point where you want to play and the thing that's holding you back is the obscurity of the rule set or the impenetrable, face of Dungeons and Dragons, multiple books, multiple this, multiple that, lots and lots of this, that, and the other, and you've got to buy all this stuff. You really don't. Just, I don't know. I don't advocate piracy, but it's very, very easy to get your hands on the rules and a character sheet, and then, even the basic quick start rules. There's a funny thing that happens. I did this with Call of Cthulhu a while ago. I wanted to get my head around the new Call of Cthulhu, the latest. It's not new because it's about 5 years old, but the latest edition of Call of Cthulhu, because I love Call of Cthulhu. But I've never run a game myself. I love playing it, but I thought, I'll try and run a game for my friends. I really like the mystery thing and the cosmic horror. I'm a big Cthulhu fan. And so I thought, okay, I could spend all this money and get the rules and then read this volume to really understand the intricacies of the rule because as a dungeon master or a warden or a keeper or whatever it is, you should know this stuff, right? You should be able to know without spending ages, be able to kind of have those fundamental rules at your fingertips to not slow the game down. So I thought, I'll buy the starter set. And I did. And I ran a game and I thought, ooh, I know I should go and buy it. And I did in the end go and buy the box set. But I could have kept on using those the starter box set for ages that cost like $15 or something. And that would have lasted, I could have run campaigns just from that. I got the gist of the game. I got the gist of the rules from a keeper's perspective. All good. So you can do the same with Dungeons and Dragons. You don't have to buy every handbook out there because you will empty your wallet and you'll be sad. You build these things up over time, but just start with the basics. And then if you want to be retro, then start from second edition, which again, in my opinion, is the best. And there are others that would agree. Of a similar age to me, I think. Maybe it's just nostalgia, but I don't think so. I think that the reason why there are so many OSR games, old school Renaissance games, is that people are deliberately trying to emulate second edition or something close to it because it's just the best. Anyway, that's just like my opinion, man. So, yeah, if there's a bunch of you who've never played Dungeons and Dragons before and you're all not sure, one of you's got to step up and be that dungeon master. You've got to, unfortunately, be that person to sit and kind of figure it out. Now, the fundamentals are these for that person. Think of your game in scenes. Think of a very, very simple plot or get inspiration from a film or something. Very, very simple. Not too much intricacy at all because you'll fall foul of yourself. Start off treating everything like a one-shot game. This game's going to last 4 hours max, and the players hopefully will get from beginning to end but they might not. And if they don't, do not railroad them. Don't push them along so fast that they feel like they're just kind of, oh, now you're here, and now you're there, and now you allow them room. Because if you create maybe, let's say, 3 major scenes, exposition, the beginning, what's happening, where are the players, why are they there, how's this quest going to unfold? Scene 2, going from wherever they started to the quest end zone itself. So what happens in that arc? Well, normally there's a bit of kind of, there's some danger and intrigue there. It could be a cursed forest or something they've got to traverse before they get to the place where they need to be to find the thing or rescue the princess or whatever. So that's like Act 2, I guess, or Scene 2. And then Scene 3, Act 3, is the bit where they overcome the big bad, they save the princess, they whatever the thing is, or they will die trying. Who knows, right? So if you kind of block it out like that, it's very simple for that dungeon master, the new dungeon master, to understand that 3-point arc, like a Hollywood 3-point arc, right? All the intrigue and all the fun for your players is in the gaps, in between all those bits. It's the bits where they're discussing what to do, that encourage them to ask you questions. And that's how you fill these things out so much and so well. And those are the things where your players, when they get to the end of the game, and they're like, oh, I love the bit where blah, blah, blah. And I love the bit where this happened and that happened. So as a new dungeon master, do not overwrite. Don't overthink. Just have your 3 blocks. Estimate that it might go over roughly 4 hours. It probably won't. It'll probably go longer than you expect it to, because player faffing is a thing. But don't rush them. If they look like they're coming to a bit of a stall, like they're looking for the next, then by all means, pop yourself in. Hey, I'm the dungeon master. By the way, there's a barbarian standing on a street corner, and he's giving someone some grief about something or other. Just throw in something in there to give them a bit like toys, really, just to have fun with. But always be mindful that your arc is, there's someone somewhere who's about to pull off a Christmas tree, pull off a princess's head and throw it down a cliff, or I don't know, or try and impregnate a dragon or something. I don't know. Anyway, so the new dungeon master, get your head around that, but fundamentally get your head around the things like the dice you're going to roll and why, armor class, hit points, skills, proficiencies, those kind of things, so that you have a good idea of what the words, the rules are giving you. Don't worry about every single spell. You don't need to know. Don't worry about every single monster. You don't need to know. Just pick the monsters that are going to be in your adventure. And wow, I think most dungeon masters out there will agree with me when sometimes you're like, I don't know the stats of this monster, but I'm going to throw it in anyway because it feels right. If a player turns around to you and says, well, I think you'll find that a goblin has an armor class of, it's like, well, not this one. This one's wearing special armor. I did this very thing yesterday playing Easy D6. I decided to pump up one of my goblins because the damn conjurers were taking out my goblins too quickly. So I had a goblin with extraordinary armor on. And all it did was kind of add a bit of what does his armor do then? I said, I don't know, because you broke it. Thus is the nature and destiny of armor, is to break eventually. So anyway, it's really easy for me to kind of say this stuff, and it is daunting to be a first-time DM. But the main thing is to give yourself space, allow yourself to breathe. You know what someone did to me or for me or my group a while ago was brilliant. My friend Will's wife, Fee, ran this really cool game where we all were dogs, actually. It was a bit of Cthulhu in there because we had sanity, but actually our sanity was flipped around so that throughout the game we actually became more sentient, or became more human, which anyway, it was very clever. But what she did was, after say every kind of major scene, or let's say every 25 minutes or something, or half an hour, she just said, okay, 5-minute break. I've never done that before. Oh, okay. So got up from the table, had a drink, whatever, sat back down, literally 5 minutes, came back. played. And it's funny how that 5 minute, and I think it was nice for the players actually, just for the chance to go and do whatever they want to do for 5 minutes, check their messages on their phone or whatever. But for Fee, I think what I realised was she was giving herself room to kind of go over the next thing, the next scene, take a breath, remember that, because you can get so wound up as a DM, like, oh my God, I need to find this thing in the rules. Oh, what dice? Oh, what's happening? What's the armor class of this? What's the thing of that? So when you stretch yourself out, your players, I think, are kind of like mindful that, the DM is struggling here, which creates a kind of an awkward tension. So you want to be always pretty relaxed, always have it in hand, even though sometimes you really haven't. And for a new player, listen to your DM. Try and, what's his name? DM Scotty has this phrase for Easy D6 for the players, pushers and shovers. Pushers and shovers means, as a player, you are constantly trying to push the plot, the fiction, the game. You're trying to think of the best thing, the most epic thing, the darkest thing, the thing that makes the game so different from any other game you've ever played, because that's the difference between a board game or a video game and Dungeons and Dragons or role-playing games, is that you as a player get out of it what you put into it. And where you can derail a game badly is to just kind of piss off your dungeon master deliberately, slow the game down deliberately, undermine other players, become disruptive in the game. All these things make for, unfortunately, a bit of a shit game. And you won't be invited back if you do that more than once or twice, because, you're not being respectful of the time of everyone else around the table, which is a bit crap, really. So, new dungeon masters, stay cool, stay frosty out there. Just don't overreach. The skill comes with hours and hours and hours of being a dungeon master, to the point where your players are going to be looking at you going, how the hell did you come up with that? You're like, well, it's just what I do. I'm a professional. And for the players, equally, be a good player, right? Like, if you don't know how to play, don't pretend you do. Ask the questions. What dice do I roll here? Oh, do you think this spell does this or this? I don't really understand. Or, how does the round thing work? If I'm hitting something, how does it work again? Cool, you just roll that dice. Get this number or more. You hit it. Great. So, yeah, back to the original. I'm sorry to the person who asked me, how do I play Dungeons and Dragons? I just bought my family a kit. Hopefully this video goes some way to explaining my rather crap response. But I did consider it, I considered, and I thought to myself, the best way to learn is to do, and it's the experience, not the rules. And there you go. That's my opinion. And I must remember to edit. I'm tired. I'm tired today. Edit out the coughing earlier, because no one wants to see or hear that, do they? Anyway, have a lovely time. I don't know how to sign these things off. So just whatever you're doing, it's just, I hope it's lovely. Tiddly poop.